Anybody else? I'm waiting for anybody. Steve.
At least one guy, I don't know if he's not one that worked with my shield, I thought he was going to be here.
All right, let's get started then. It's June 23rd, 2013.
This
24.
24.
Yeah, 24. I wrote it down wrong. 24, 2013. Collective bargaining session in Pasco County and Teamsters Local 79. I'm Jim Sheriff.
Over this month,
For the union, John Schultes.
Bruce Lee.
Ed Cezek Utilities.
Doug Mack Utilities, Thomas Longden Fleet, Tom Yellow Facility Manager.
Tom Russell, Golden Bridge.
John, you want to run through the open list? So we've got.
Yeah, I guess that wouldn't hurt. Article 3, non-discrimination, I'm seeing this withdrawn, that's still the case, right?
That's right.
It's still open as far as the union's concerned, but we can have some discussion about that. Article 9, union dues deduction is still open. You want me to just run through these numbers, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Article 19, seniority is still open. Article 23, annual leave. Article 30, workers' compensation. Article 31, leave time excluded. I have trouble saying that. Article 42, employee performance evaluation. I think we're pretty close. I mean, you want comments on these, or you want me to?
No, let's just do the list and we'll come back.
I see that still
and just compare it against mine.
Article 43, work schedule and overtime is still open. Article 48, holidays, as well as Article 49, wages and salaries are both still open. Article 56, duration is up in the air as far as how long the contract's going to last. And did I skip over 10? I already said 10 still open, right?
No, you skipped that one.
A little bit out of order. Bargaining unit work, Article 10 is still open. And we have a proposal for disciplinary procedure which hasn't been numbered, so I'll call that number X. That's still open.
It's 45.
It's 45.
45 is reduction in workforce.
I think I believe our Article 19 addresses that. Let me check. Yeah, our Article 19 proposal on seniority addresses layoff and recall. So, consider that part of 19. I guess, if you have articles that you consider open that I haven't mentioned other than that.
Yeah, let me run through. Things that, bargaining unit work.
Yeah, it's I didn't call that out, then include that in the list. The proposal that we gave you guys on the 23rd, 10, 19, 40, 30, and Article X. So if you want to give me your version of what's open.
Yeah, I'm just checking it against my stack of TA. Make sure I missed it. That's it. Okay.
Want to read the list one more time?
3, 9, 10, 19, which was 45, 23, 30, 31, 42, 43, 48, 49, 56, and you have a new proposal on disciplinary procedure.
That's it.
Okay.
Have you had a chance to review our proposals on the 23rd?
Yeah, there's nothing in there that we could accept.
Nothing at all?
Well, they were nicely printed, if that helps. Feel any better?
I don't feel any better about anything. If you want to get a contract, then I have to have some language that you guys are willing to vote on. And the retention matrix is not language that you guys are interested in voting on. How about to get something accomplished? Let's look at Article 43, lunch and breaks. It was formerly titled breaks and lunch. Breaks and lunches. And in response to some of your comments that you made,
We're working on your 523 version, right?
right, I have a new one.
All right.
But I will admit that the 523, the version that was presented, which was taken straight from the Hernando County BOCC collective bargaining agreement with Teamsters Local 79, does have some room for improvement. That language had been changed a little bit, and you know how collective bargaining goes. People want to throw words in here and there, and by the time you end up with the finished product, it's not always the best version of what it could be. So I do have a revised proposal for Article 43. I'd like to review. I think it sums up a little clearer, more formal. A little more clarity anyway, what we're trying to accomplish. And it reads, employees shall be granted one unpaid lunch break, because that was an issue before, lasting either 30 minutes or 60 minutes per shift. The lunch break start time, as well as which duration option is used, may be determined by the supervisor. However, the supervisor shall make every effort to schedule the lunch break as close to the halfway point of the employee's shift as possible. Employees must receive prior approval from the supervisor if they elect to not take a lunch break. Second paragraph, employees shall be granted 2 15-minute paid breaks per shift, one before the unpaid lunch break and one after. The break start times may be determined by the supervisor. However, the supervisor shall make every effort to schedule the breaks as close to the start of the second and fourth quarters of the employee's shift as possible. And the reason for this, this language is to keep management from either giving a guy a lunch break at the very end of the shift or at the very beginning of the shift, or to try and lump them all together. and give people a lunch and a break and a lunch, 2 hours into their shift. And you may ask, well, why would they do that? And well, prior to this, my understanding the county has not been required to allow the lunch breaks, unpaid lunch breaks, or 15-minute breaks. So now when you have a contract provision that says that you have to do something, then the union's experiences are that sometimes management people, as a way of a protest, would like to make things miserable for certain people, so they will not use the lunch break and the 15-minute breaks as intended, and again, stockpile them, front load them, back load them. So we're just looking for a fair shake here. If you're going to give a guy a lunch break, make it somewhere as if you can in the middle of the day. We understand that you can't always do that, but if you make every effort, or at least a good effort, and you don't have a reason why you can't, then that would be fair. And if we can give somebody 2 15-minute breaks, the idea is to have an employee perform work and then take a break to relax his mind and his body. It makes no sense to plow through the day with no lunch and no breaks and take everything at the end of the day. That's not what the concept is as far as the union is concerned. So this proposal, I think, offers a little bit more clarity than the previous proposal from 523, which those parties understood what the language means, but you guys may not.
Well, it's interesting because it's been my experience that some employees like to take their lunch at the end of the day so they can leave early, or they like to add a break onto their lunch. So you're doing the exact opposite.
Well, actually, it's not, Barbara. If you look at the language, it says shall be granted. So if an employee decides that that's what they want to do, then, and the management doesn't have a problem with it, and both that employee and both management decide that that's okay, this language doesn't prevent them from doing so. But when an employee says, no, man, when I want to take my lunch, I want to take it in the middle of the day, he shall be granted his request, because that's what each paragraph starts off with. So I agree. Some employees like to operate that way, and some don't. But at least there's an option here.
Yeah, well, we haven't changed our position about, putting in the contract that they must have 2 15-minute breaks.
Okay, what about the unpaid lunch? What's your response on that? They don't have a lunch either?
We still have the issue with public transportation, so we need to see what to do about that.
The issue is that you don't want to give them breaks, right?
Oh, we're talking about breaks or lunch. We don't want to guarantee 2 15-minute breaks.
With lunch. So you can't, we are on the subject of lunch, I apologize. So, as far as the transportation employees, you don't believe that they are should be entitled to a lunch break?
The conversations I've had with the manager there says, he has said to me that it's the industry standard that they don't have lunch.
Okay, so, and I want to get this right for the record. The county's position that no employee should be entitled to 15-minute breaks, or at least they shouldn't have it protected in a collective bargaining agreement, and that certain employees are not entitled to a lunch break. That's what the county's position, right? Just want to clarify.
I think you're right about the part that it doesn't need to be reflected in the collective bargaining agreement.
What about all the other stuff that I said? What about I'm just repeating what Barbara just asked, or mentioned, that the transportation industry typically doesn't offer lunch breaks. I disagree with that wholeheartedly. It's profoundly incorrect. It's wrong. Just because one of your management people doesn't like to give lunch breaks to employees, to think that that's an industry standard is absurd. But I just want to get your position clear, that transportation employees are not entitled to a lunch break, right?
If there was a way of doing it, I'd be more than happy to look at it. I just don't know how somebody who has a circulator route, people on the bus, how they do it.
How do those routes get established?
They
Who
go
sets the
through,
routes?
they set them, but they're based on, you know, citizen surveys and the bus usage and, you know, whatever else they look at.
So when it's determined that bus route 100, as an example, will pick up stop at each stop in 15-minute intervals along US 19 and say Ridge Road or whatever, that decision to stop at those certain times is made by management, right? It's at the county. Okay. So the county has the full authority to determine when those stops occur.
Right.
So how is it that the county can't determine that when those routes are scheduled, routes are set and established, that there will be certain times that allow for an employee to take a break?
Well, what do you do with the people on the bus?
I would imagine if the people on the bus are being picked up from a certain stop, but the driver that's picking them up has either already had his lunch break or he's not due to one for several hours. But it's a matter of planning. It's a matter of...
But the route's continuous, so there's people getting on and getting off at each stop.
Well, then why, I understand that. I mean, I understand how bus routes work, but so basically you're saying that, well, if a guy starts at 6 o'clock in the morning and I set up a route that every 15 minutes he's at another stop, he just cannot stop until 6 p.m. That's because of your
No, so
decision.
you're assuming a 12-hour shift.
No, I'm just saying that that's an example of what you're saying, well, John, we can't do anything about it.
What we're saying is it's not practical to try to write language that's specific for that one position in the bargaining unit. So
That
would you like us
particular-
to consider your language to work, you know, with the exclusion of that one position? Would that move us forward a little bit?
Well, coincidentally enough, that's the group that needs this language more than any other group. That's the group that doesn't have lunch breaks, that are reportedly urinating in cups because they can't stop. I mean, so to move along without that group is not addressing, you know, the group that this issue, you know, speaks to.
I can talk to the department again and see if they can find out what other departments are doing. Right, because I don't, you know, I'm not opposed to people having lunch. I'll be the first person to tell you. I just, you know, don't know how to resolve it for that group.
Do you have any bus routes that either overlap or come near each other?
I'm not an expert on the routes, yeah, really not.
All right, so let's switch gears and go back to the 15-minute paid breaks per shift. Why is it that you can't allow contract language in a union contract to offer people 15-minute breaks? Why is that?
We see it as a management discretion thing.
Well, if it's a management discretion thing, then would you agree that certain people would be allowed to take them and other people wouldn't?
Well, with my staff, I don't have, okay, everybody takes 2 15-minute breaks, but they're free to take a break. It's more, you know, as long as, you know, all hell isn't, you know, what's the expression? There isn't, you know, major issues going on, you know, anybody can take a break whenever they want. But to stand there and have the supervisor say, okay, you start your 15-minute break, and you end your 15-minute break, it becomes an issue.
Well, if
And
you
then,
look at the
and then I
language,
also know that the 15-minute break becomes a 60-minute break and a 20-minute break, and before you know it, you know, that just goes out of control.
okay, I want to respond to several of those points. Well, if you look at the language, the second sentence of the second paragraph starts off with the break start times may be determined by the supervisor. I put may because I believe in certain work groups you probably have employees that you know, determine their own break time because they have that discretion, and they have always had that discretion, and they should continue to do so. So to say that break start time shall be determined by the supervisor, then that puts a burden on the supervisor. And you're saying that becomes a problem where every supervisor has to sit down and tell every single person. That's not the intent. The intent is just guaranteeing somebody 2 15-minute paid breaks. So if we put in here 2 5-minute breaks, or 2 25-minute breaks, or 2 90-minute breaks, employees who choose to abuse what's offered to them, I don't, that's a management issue. If you have supervisors that can't supervise their employees or cannot enforce rules, then maybe they shouldn't be supervisors. I don't know what to tell you. But to say that I don't want to put a 15-minute break in here because we all know that 15 minutes really means 20 minutes, I don't think is a reasonable response. I think that we have to have some sort of benchmark for what's considered a break. And if 15 minutes is not suitable and you prefer to have another number in there, we'll certainly look at that counter proposal. But just because your HR staff, which is, I would imagine, confidential and I would imagine exempt from being organized at all, is not entitled to have structured breaks, doesn't mean that the rest of the county shouldn't have that option. A lot of these employees in the bargaining unit have jobs that allow them very easily to take structured breaks at certain times. And some of them don't, and that's where the discretion factor comes in.
Let's take a break for a minute. Paid for me, of course.
Schedule.
You're on the clock all day and night.
We were on the bus route, we just circulated around the whole county and
They're efficient.
Well, what'd you find out with your bus ride?
well, they actually do take breaks. How about that?
Okay, we're back on. It's 9:54. The the paratransport personnel, that's the door-to-door service.
What do you call it, paratransit?
Paratransit. They take breaks and they take lunch. They call them dispatch. There's no specific limit on when they do it. It's just route related. The regular transport, the circular route, they get a break on average every 30 minutes. They get a break at the end of the line, which is the layover or reverse point,
How long a break is that?
which is often the malls.
7 to 12 minutes.
7 to 12 minutes, right. And those are usually at mall-type locations. Not all of them, but most of them are.
Are they allowed to leave their bus unattended?
Yes.
Yes.
When the breaks that they take every 30 minutes, how long do those breaks last?
7 to 12.
And the one at the end of the route is 7 to 12 minutes as well?
Yeah.
That's all included in that. For those breaks, they're not even required to call into dispatch. It's just expected that.
Okay, I thought you described 2 types of breaks. I guess it's just one type of break every 30 minutes. There's a 7 to 12 minute break every 30 minutes.
It averages, because of the route system, it averages about every 30 minutes.
But the end of the route,
That's part of that.
that's how often
Don't
is that?
distinguish.
Once a shift or?
Oh, no.
No, so the breaks are about every 30 minutes.
The routes are much
So
shorter.
whether
It takes 30 minutes to go from point A to point F, and then when they get to F, when they turn their route and start all back over again, they get a 7 to 12 minute break.
That's
at
right.
F.
That's my
Their
understanding.
loops are all.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
constant,
it's
but they,
it's
they
a
don't, yeah,
circulated
just-
route.
they get to the mall, or wherever their last stop is, they'll take a 7 to 12 minute break.
And how long
And they
is
can leave the
that?
bus for that 7 to 12 minutes?
Yeah. They all have to do is
Yeah, like
secure their,
The coin.
the coin issue, and it's at their discretion whether to leave somebody on the bus or not.
Well, I don't don't see as being realistic is if somebody has, it's 7 to 12 on average, so on the low average it's 7 minutes, and I'm at the mall. First of all, I don't know if the malls, what the hours in the mall is. I guess they typically open at 10 a.m. Right. So
It's like 9 to 9, I think.
9 to 9.
It's-
So does someone realistically have the ability to park their bus, shut the thing off, lock the door, go inside, walk across the parking lot, inside the mall, stand in line, get food if they want to eat, or even find a bathroom, and then come back to their bus, walk across the parking lot again, back to their bus, because you can't park right up to the mall?
Yeah, that's where they are, they park right in front of the mall. They don't park, they're like,
In the no parking zone kind of thing, like, not
yeah,
sarcastic.
in the bus stop is where they park, because you always see them lined up there.
I
So
mean-
they don't have to, they're not parking in the mall, they're right up against the curb.
Okay, but again, 7 minutes for someone, because the bus has got to be secure, they got to lock everything up. And then to get inside, if we're implying that they can both use the bathroom and then maybe get a bite to eat and then come back on their bus, there's just no way that's going to occur in 7 minutes. It's just not at all.
And do all the bus drivers drive to the mall? No,
Well,
they
if
don't.
not, they go to Walmart or, other, the start and stop.
Shopping malls.
There's only one mall, but there's other shopping centers.
But every route goes to a shopping center.
That's what it sounds like Kmart, Walmart.
Yeah, there's a big one at Kmart.
There's a big stop right there, I think it's the breaking lines at Beacon Woods, that bus comes up 1990 North, he comes into that mall where Wendy's is, and the other one comes back and joins into Kmart, he continues up north, you know what I'm saying? They kind of like stop right there, there's usually a mall, then you get Kmart down south.
Yeah, yeah, because he mentioned the Kmart. I
And the
thought
other
he
one
meant,
turns there, and he comes up, he heads south, the other one heads back north.
yeah, I thought he meant the North Kmart, but he was talking about the South one.
Well, they also,
The Tarvis right there.
yeah.
Well, and why
The one in Newport Ridge.
Yeah.
Behind the wall with the yellow car on front of it.
Yeah, Blue City.
Yeah, south of Main
Yeah.
Street.
Yeah, South Main Street.
So in light of that information, that every 30 minutes there's a kind of a reset, I have all the more reason to believe that through the operational adjustments, that there's no reason why a driver, instead of having a 7 to 12 minute break, would have a 15 to 30 minute break once a day. I mean, it's the county that's determining that bus is going to leave at 12 o'clock or 12:15 or 1:27 or 1:55 or whatever time it is. The county's the one that's making that decision. And so it's easier now. In light of what you just said, it's easier, in my mind, to squeeze in a break, because if they're doing 30-minute loops, then there's no reason why the schedules can't be adjusted.
You know, John, we reached just the opposite conclusion.
That's fine.
What we figured out was that the system that's working now is both fair. It provides a significant number of breaks, break availability during it at the discretion of the driver, without the requirement of calling in to, do time records on it, which means it's paid time, and there's no need to change it. And there's certainly no reason to elevate it to contractual language in our point of view.
What about the case of the public workers that need to take a break, road and bridge?
Well, we're talking about the transit people right now.
Well, I still disagree that even at the extreme large end of the 7 to 12 minute, window, that in 12 minutes, how does a person? I mean, it takes 5 minutes to stand in line to get food if you're being waited on quickly. I mean, so if it takes you, I'm at 12 o'clock, my bus shuts down, I lock the door, okay? I go inside, I go to the bathroom. If I'm hustling, that's 12:02, 12:03, okay? I go to the bathroom, if I have to, take a few minutes in the bathroom, that's 12:05, 12:07. My 7 minutes is up. Okay, and then if I want to go to wait in line at the food court at the mall,
You need to bring your lunch.
okay, so you bring your lunch, Where are you supposed to eat your lunch? On the bus?
Yeah.
At your
Or
steering
there's,
wheel?
or inside the mall, there's seats there.
You know, I'm looking at all the routes in the county and their schedules, which are posted on the county's website. There's no route that's longer than, in total, 50, looks like 55, no, 53 minutes.
I thought you said every 30 minutes they had a 7 to 12 minute break.
Talking from end point to beginning point, there's stops along there. If you look at the routes themselves, there's stopping points all along. Some of them have as many as 6 or 7, and some are only 4.
So sometime closer to lunch, is it possible for them to take that 1/2 hour, say it's 12:30 or 1 o'clock or 11:35, whatever, can they stop at that last stop, say they're at that last stop, the loop, they finish their loop, I guess you call it. They can go in and actually take their lunch for half an hour, or sit on the bus or sit in the shade and have their half an hour lunch, unpaid lunch.
Now, extended lunches are not practical for that system, and it's not customary either in the industry.
Taking whatever from everybody on the bus and go through the drive-through with Burger King. I'm sure everybody on the bus would like a hamburger.
Just watch the overhang.
Yeah, that's all. Just be careful of the overhead.
Yeah, been done ever before. Usually with fire trucks.
So now if you go back to your language on 43, the first paragraph that deals with the lunch break, we're not going to agree to a lunch break for the transportation. The paratransit do get it, and they do call in, so, and that's a 30-minute break, lunch break.
How many paratransit drivers are there? You know, off the top of your head?
I don't.
It's a lot fewer.
Well, why don't we explore what we can agree to? I mean, you mentioned it earlier, but I without having Jim Boucher here from that group, you know, I'm not obviously going to TA anything regarding this, but what is it that you can't agree to?
Well, here's what we will agree to. For the first paragraph, we'll agree that employees, with the exception of transit employees, we'll write a special provision for them. They get one unpaid lunch break of 60 minutes per shift. And then the rest of your language about how it's coordinated, it's as determined by the supervisor.
Do you have a previous proposal on this, or you?
I'm working from your language. And then on the second paragraph, which deals with the breaks, the language we would agree to is that employees may be granted a break at the discretion of the supervisor.
So you're seeking to delete all the language about first half of the shift, second half of the shift, and all that.
There's so many positions in the bargaining unit that to write one rule is impossible. So we would just leave it. You've already acknowledged that it's to be at the discretion of the supervisor, so that's the language we would agree to.
Okay, well, read how you want it, tell me how you want it to read.
Second paragraph?
First one.
Employees, with the exception of transportation employees.
Transportation or transit?
Transit,
Public transportation is what.
okay, public transportation employees.
Okay.
Will be granted one unpaid lunch break of 60 minutes per shift. Third line down after the word supervisor, you have a semicolon. Put a period there, delete the rest of the clause in that sentence.
Go back to employees must receive.
No, And if we're gonna have lunch breaks, it's gonna be uniform. So there'll be no exceptions provided for that.
And that means for the county. Because I've had a lot of times they come up and say, hey, keep working. And by the time you get done working, you've already got through 8 hours. And you just say, nope, you gotta stop. And that's not efficient to you.
Well, we want
That's what-
flexibility, but
Yeah.
if you guys want,
Well,
we're
that's-
stay in the contract.
We can't write a specific rule for everybody, so therefore, I don't want to get into a situation where you've got 450 people getting special approval not to take one. That's where
I think the idea was, that's more of an employer generated sentence. I mean, usually the employer wants to make sure that an employee doesn't take it upon himself to skip their lunch break. I mean, that's usually where that comes from. So an employer wants to make sure that an employee will receive prior approval. It's not a union.
The way it's worded is, it's an employee option, but they require supervisor approval. So we don't want to have supervisors having to evaluate 350, requests a day to alter the lunch break. The lunch break is a lunch break, then the work will be planned around it.
I understand that's your concern. I get that. I'm just saying that I don't care about striking or not. It really doesn't make a difference to me. Typically speaking, that language comes from an employer for a different reason than the reason they don't like it.
Well, we have the flexibility we need in the beginning part as determined by the supervisor.
Is there there's nobody that takes the 30-minute lunch?
There are. Yeah.
That's what I was just gonna ask, use word is 60 minutes?
Yeah, we want to have one rule applies to all.
So now, what am I gonna have to do? I have to take a half an hour unpaid or work
The
another
whole
half
thing
an
is
hour?
not, the whole thing is not.
Lunch is unpaid.
So we'd have to work another half an hour?
I understand.
Why would you not want to keep it 30 and 60? I don't understand. So to have now.
You guys are the ones that want everybody to treat the same.
Our proposal says 30 or 60, Barbara. You're changing it to 60. So how can you possibly say that's what we want?
We are, because it's easier to manage in a uniform manner.
Are you really trying to piss everybody in county off?
You're unbelievable.
You can't shut down a paper for an hour.
This is-
You can't shut down anything for an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Well,
know.
if you shut it for a
I
half
thought about the
hour.
impact it's going to have on the whole county's operation, but if you're forcing everybody to take 60 minutes instead of some taking 30, have you really thought that out?
Yeah.
I don't think so. Told that paving guy that makes asphalt at the plant, we're gonna shut down for an hour, and then start back up?
Well, that's why it's at the determination of the supervisor.
Okay. But
There'll be days where it doesn't happen at all, I would imagine.
So
at
the day
end
gets
of the
longer,
day.
so I work till 6 o'clock at night, not 5:30. That make up the half hour, you get 10 hours.
What about, I think I like working over.
Well, if you're leaving,
I have enough time getting through 8 hours. Are you kidding me? With what I'm
if
seeing
you're
in
leaving
this
the
county.
if you're leaving the second sentence as proposed, the lunch break start time as well as which duration option is used, but you're taking away the option, that doesn't make sense.
You're right, you'd have to take out that clause.
I don't understand, other than it's out of spite, why the county would not want to just keep things the way they are when it works to the county's benefit. We're giving you the option of telling the employee, no, you don't get a 30-minute break, you get a 60-minute break,
So-
you don't get a 60-minute break, you get a 30-minute break.
If you want to leave everything the way it is, let's just say on the lunch breaks and luncheon breaks, it would just say the county will maintain the status quo, if you like it the way it is.
Well, the status quo is hard to define when it's different in all different places. And I think
We have a procedure to deal with that. If you think there's a violation of the status quo.
You're just so contradictory when part of you saying, I can't agree to such a broad-based proposal, such as past practices, when you need to figure everything out the way it's going to be before we agree to it. Now you're saying today, oh, let's just have a free-for-all all across the county, whatever happens, happens, and then we'll worry about a procedure to enforce the status quo. Which one is it, Jim?
Well, here's what it is. It's when we get a contract and we meet with the supervisor, we will say, here's how you have to adapt the way you run the day. Here's the contract language that has been agreed to. We don't like it any more than you like it, but this is what has been agreed to, and it's a uniform process. We have one union to deal with. It's easier to have one rule than to have 30 rules. That's what we're gonna say to them. That's the way contracts get implemented the first time there's a contract.
Okay, but that's not what you're proposing. You're proposing is, listen, guys, I know you've taken lunch breaks from 30 minutes to 45 to 50 minutes to 55 to 60, but you know what? Throw that all out the window. Now you're going to be forced to have every single employee take a 60-minute. That makes no sense. It's counterproductive. I have to agree with Bruce. What's the motivation other than to try and piss people off? It just doesn't make any sense. We're giving you the language to take advantage of the status quo.
Well, you give me the positions in the bargaining unit that you want 34 and the positions you want 64, and we'll evaluate.
It's up to the management's discretion. It says right there.
And it's already
The duration
established.
option may be determined by the supervisor.
We're not sitting with the supervisors.
It's already established. We all know who takes a 30-minute lunch and who takes a 60.
Great, go through the list of employees.
Why don't you do your job? We all know what it
Your
is.
proposal.
God.
Our
You
proposal
analyze
is 30 minutes or 60 minutes.
All of Road and Bridge, if I'm not mistaken, Bob, would take a 30-minute break. There's no supervisor, nobody takes an hour lunch, unless it's, you people, we don't take it. Sorry, not you people, management. We don't take it. Everybody in Road and Bridge, stormwater, utilities, any blue-collar worker, even the supervisors, are only allowed 30 minutes. I don't know where this hour came from. Who takes an hour break? I don't know.
Just the people in the office. That's
Maybe
it.
we get an hour.
Yeah, they do, but they work 8 to 5, but
They're
they
not
work
covered
8 to
by
5.
They're not covered by this bargaining agreement.
Some of them are,
I think it's
but they
fair.
actually work 8 to 5.
8 to 5. Well,
I
that's
think it's fair, because, I considered saying, well, anywhere between 30 and 60. I think it's more fair to an employee to say, your lunch break is either gonna be 30 minutes or 60 minutes, as opposed to, well, after 30 minutes, at any time, I can say, okay, get back to work. I don't think that's fair. I think an employee has a right to know how long their lunch break is, so they can plan accordingly. Make phone calls, talk to their spouse, maybe go out to eat, or whatever it is they want to do. But we are giving you full discretion of which option to use, and you're slicing that in half to give yourselves no discretion. It's put it bluntly, an ass-backwards proposal.
And you're otherwise agreeing with our language that it would exclude the public transportation?
Well, like I said at the beginning, I want to see where you are, see how far we can get with reaching an agreement on every other part of the bargaining unit, and then when our representative from that group who's not here today, and we have a chance to have some discussion with them. And you said yourself there's going to be another maybe another paragraph or sentence or so to address public transportation employees, right?
Well, let's deal with the first paragraph without the public transportation employees, and tell me if we have an agreement on it.
I'm not going to agree that everybody takes a 60-minute break.
You agree to a period after the word supervisor in the third line, and delete the rest of the paragraph?
Leaving the 30 or 60-minute option?
Yeah.
So employees, with the exception of public transportation, shall be granted one unpaid lunch break lasting either 30 or 60 minutes per shift. The lunch break start time, as well as which duration option is used, may be determined by the supervisor.
Period.
Period.
Do you agree with that?
I'd like to talk to my committee. As long as I have your assurance before we go off record that there will be language to cover public transportation.
We'll work on that next.
Okay.
Let's get one thing out of the way.
I want to talk to my committee before we...
We'll take a break right now.
Okay.
Okay, we're back on. It's 10:23.
Okay, understanding that we have another half this proposal to button up, we are okay with that first paragraph to at least move forward as proposed.
Okay, let's move on to the second paragraph. Our proposed language is employees may be granted breaks at the discretion of the supervisor.
And that's not acceptable, because we have to have some sort of assurance of breaks will be given to employees. And if you want to take out the language regarding, the break scheduling, we understand, but as far as just having a break be at the discretion of the supervisor, that means a supervisor can determine an employee is not entitled to any breaks.
It's true.
That doesn't suit our needs. Do you believe that there's a certain segment of the bargaining unit that doesn't take any breaks at all? And of course, we're talking excluding public transportation, but
My guess would be is that everybody takes a break.
takes a break or takes 2 breaks?
Takes a break at some point during the day.
And what is the duration of those?
I would say it varies.
Well, what is the hang-up then? Is it the 15 minutes? Is that is the number of the hang-up, or is there more to it?
You know what the issue is? The supervisor has to keep track of this thing. Whether it's 15 minutes or 10 minutes or 20 minutes, they have to say, okay, this, employee A left at this time, they came back at this time. This one left at this time. Whether they're telling them to go or they're leaving on their own. And that's just one more thing to keep track of.
Isn't that what is happening now, though? I mean, for those, Jim said that I think pretty much everybody receives a break, right? I mean, so if everybody, or most everybody receives a break, isn't that already occurring? That the supervisor is being held accountable for their breaks?
They're taking a break, but it's a matter of whether they're regimented or not. You want them, everybody gets the same break every day, and, it's going to depend on management needs, whether there's, people screaming all over the place, which happens some places, and, or they're in the middle of a water break or whatever. It's going to depend from one day to the next.
John, when you elevated to contractual language of this nature, 2 15-minute breaks, 30 minutes of paid time for breaks. When you elevated to contract language, we have to elevate the management accountability on it, the record keeping on it.
I understand that. However, if it's the practice that employees are allowed breaks now, and we're seeking them to continue to have a little bit more definition, much like the first paragraph on lunches, you're acknowledging that it's an event that's going to occur sometime during the day, because if you're going to use the argument that if all hell is breaking loose, it's times like that I think an employee is working harder than they typically are, and it's times like that they're probably more deserving or more needing of a break than on average days. So as far as the scheduling, to make it convenient for the county so that an emergency situation can be addressed or taken care of, we get that part. But there's just too much leeway for a supervisor to just not give an employee a break, much in the same way that you don't give them a lunch because of certain feelings toward the employee or whatever. We want to have that assurance that just like the lunch break, it's an event that's going to occur sometime during the day, that we want this paid break time on it.
Yeah, that's where Barbara's coming from. We do it. We're on the tree crew. I'm doing a tree. We're in the middle of cutting a tree now. We got cones out. 10:30. We got it all cleaned up. We're not gonna take a break at 10 o'clock. Leave the road block. We schedule. We do it. Mike doesn't tell us to take our 15-minute break.
Mm-hmm.
We might not even take it if we're driving to the next job. But we take our 15-minute break in between. When we're doing a job. It's not at 10 o'clock. It's not at. It might not be at 9 o'clock. But and the same with every crew. Teddy's crew's on a job. Hey, 10 o'clock. They're all together. They're doing a pipe. It's not like they're gonna go, you can't leave. It's a 15-minute break. You take a break to relax for 15 minutes.
Right.
Your lunch break, you're not getting paid for. If you're close to a store, you want to go to 7-Eleven, get a hot dog, that's what you do. If not, most people have their lunch. 90% of the guys bring their lunch, 90%. But we don't leave the job, we don't disrupt things. If it goes to 11 o'clock, hey, let's take a 15-minute break. Now we're done, we're soaked with sweat by 9 o'clock anyways. So we'll just take 15 minutes and cool off. That's what we do, that's the break.
But that's the way it's happening.
That's what we have now.
So why can't we just leave the status quo?
Because we don't want to make sure we have it.
Because not everybody in the bargaining unit works for road crew.
Sorry, yes.
You know, and so it's working there, and I think it's a great illustration of how it is working there. And we just believe that it should work everywhere. That employees are entitled to breaks. You know, some have more physical, you know, aspects of the job, and they certainly could use a break from a physical standpoint. There's others that you know, need a mental break or a stress break from the work they do because they don't do physical work. It's more, you know, of an office setting. That doesn't mean they're not entitled to take a break and unwind for a little bit. So again, we're not trying to you know, cause a problem with the operation. We're once again acknowledging that the supervisor has the discretion to tell when the breaks are occurring. We just want to have that in the contract, you know, for the employees who feel like they're never getting a break and that they should be entitled to one. So can we do something to work together on this?
Let's take a break for a minute.
Ready to talk about breaks again?
Hey.
Go for another bus ride?
By the time we're done today, we'll have been on every route. Okay, we're back on at 10:39. All right, in the second paragraph dealing with breaks, we want to keep this as close to the status quo as possible. But no, you won't agree to language that says that we'll maintain the status quo on breaks. Our proposed language would be employees in field work groups, with the exception of public transportation employees, may be granted 2 15-minute paid breaks per shift. Period. The other bargaining unit employees, you know, the people that are clerical in nature, the library and so forth and so on, just maintain the status quo on them. I don't think we need to address them at this point. You can't have all the librarians take their break at the same time.
We're not asking for it. I mean, we never mentioned, I never even.
I'm only distinguishing from the field work groups, which can. Tree crew can certainly, you know, in all likelihood, they all take their break at the same time.
But you're putting an issue there that's not there. Your issue is a concern of everybody taking a break at the same time, and our proposal never implied that we are going to determine the break times.
No, the language is still there that says it's determined by the supervisor.
Right.
So keeping it as may instead of shall to start with.
Well, then why in
Because
your response?
if it's shall, if it's a contractual obligation, then I've got to start looking at whether all of it should be paid time or some of it should be unpaid.
The point I'm trying to make is, we are proposing that employees take 2 15-minute paid breaks, and when they take the breaks is at the supervisor's discretion. We both know that. We all know that. So in your response, you gave 2 examples: field workers and librarians that you believe know, there's a disparity between the two groups, that field groups such as the tree crew can't take the breaks all at the same time when librarians can't. The point I'm trying to make is we don't care necessarily what time the breaks are taken. So you're putting in an issue that's not there. So if the librarians could take staggered breaks, would that make it okay?
Librarians can take staggered breaks right now. That's why I say the status quo is looking for the librarians. I don't need language on that. The only thing that we would agree to in Article 43 regarding breaks would be for people working out in the field. And that would be that they would have to take them as a group, but it would still be at the determination of the supervisor. We're not going to tell the once we sign a contract that has language like that, we're not going to tell the librarians they can't take a break. We're just going to say this specific language doesn't apply to you. Do what you're always doing.
Well, if anything, if we're going to entertain accepting it, it would have to be something saying that all other groups shall maintain the status quo with respect to breaks.
I'm okay with language like that. I'm also okay with your every effort language too.
You are not? Okay, so the last sentence can be unstruck.
Yeah, because I wasn't suggesting striking the last sentence. I didn't comment on that.
Now, the only problem is employees who get no breaks. If they're in a work group that does not get any breaks, and we're putting a clause in there saying that any other groups will maintain the status quo, and that status quo includes no breaks, we don't find that fair. So what can we do to address those people?
Well, where do you have a problem with this one? Which
Well, I know for a fact there's a few supervisors in Parks and Rec that the guys could be out breaking ball fields in 100-degree weather. They will not give their employees breaks because they say the county does not guarantee them breaks.
Well,
I know for a fact, and if you would like me to name them, I'll name them.
But that's because there's no contract. When we would have language like we've just proposed in the contract, once we have an agreement, we would get with the supervisors and say, here's the language regarding breaks. We anticipate all employees will have breaks, and here's the language for doing it. Exercise your discretion to make sure they get breaks.
And yeah, we're talking about field people also.
So they would be covered on it. Ed, do you have anything to say? What's it like in your neck of the
No,
woods?
it sounds like what you're saying there includes people that are in the office, and some of us take it at 10 o'clock, others, if they smoke or whatever, they go out, and take their smoke break. And our supervisors trust us, they know who we are, and we don't abuse it. We take our 15 minutes, we know exactly, we leave the building 7.5 minutes out, 7.5 back, we're back in 15 minutes. So status quo would work.
Does anybody at this table on the union side, or is anybody at this table on the union side aware of a group of them who do not get breaks other than public transportation?
Well, only problem I see with, I've talked to the landfill guys, I don't know who represents them, but they don't have a path. If they have to go to break, they can't just say, hey, I need someone to help me watch the metals and white goods. They have a bathroom with them leave, this all will be there in, 20 minutes. If Jerry has to, obviously, Jerry has to use bathrooms and white goods. You know where the new bathroom is, and the new building, they built it on the back.
I'm trying to picture it.
Yeah, but they can't leave it unless somebody.
Well, they're
comes
field work
in.
employees.
Well, they'd be covered under that too, right, field workers?
Yeah, they're going to be covered, right?
Yeah.
All right, but I guess the select group I'm looking for are going to be people in an office setting, right? Would you agree that everyone everyone else is in this field work?
Yeah, I'm breaking into two big categories, field and office.
So I guess for the few of you who are in an office setting, or at least since, I mean, Bruce is not office and he's not field. So you consider he's in a building.
I don't know what he does.
Facilities maintenance, I mean, you go from building to
No,
building.
that's
or-
a,
okay.
that's a field work, right?
I thought you were
You're
just
going
staying
from
in
place
one
to
building.
office. Office, we're talking about, well, you know the positions that are office work.
I might be in a building all day.
All right. If it ended on all of the group cell, in other words, after